Hello everybody, I'm Abha. Thanks for joining again for my course Sap Grc Process Control. So today we are going to cover about the automated monitoring framework. We can also say that it's a CCM, that is continuous control monitoring. So when we are talking about the automated monitoring, we are talking about the complete automation of the control testing. So uh, CCM is a mechanism for the automation of compliance testing and monitoring, while additional monitoring rules can be easily and quickly added. So, what do I mean by the complete automation of the control testing? So that there will not be any manual intervention is required. Let's suppose we are taking a example of a control. We are saying like client should be closed. SAP client should never be open if we are talking about the production system. So how we'll configure that? We'll look for the table T000. Inside that, maybe we'll look into it. The client should be set at the production client. It's a cross client changes should not be allowed. Nobody can do any customization directly to the system. So we'll go into T000 changes. We'll just configure our rule set like that it will check if it is configured properly or not. So this is a configuration type of control where we'll go to once we trigger the control testing, it will automatically go to the backend system. It will check the parameters and tell us the control is pass or fail. Now the second thing has come, how do we automate a control? So to do that, we have a certain steps. So this is a step which has been shown inside the diagram here. First is data source creation, then we'll create the business rule, then we'll assign. So business rule is getting created while selecting the data source. So both of these are connected. Then business rule assignment, then we are assigning the business rule to a control. Then to trigger the control testing, we will be scheduling an background job. And if there is any, if the control is fail, then if we have configured like that, then it will create a issue so that it should be remediated. So let's discuss more about what is data source and what is business rule. So data source is a representation of data to be monitored. It is created by a data source link under rule setup workstation. A data source provide the connection to the data to be analyzed. So first of all, how we are connecting our GRC system to a backend system. If we are talking about SAP GRC system, let's suppose SAP ECC system. We do connect these two systems by RFC connection. So here in GRC, we term it as a connector. So we connect these two by the RFC connection. So data source has the connector from which we are connecting our GRC system to backend system, and also the attribute from which we want to fetch the data. Let's suppose in a client opening and closing control, or our place from where we are fetching the data is table, that is T000. So inside the data source, we are saying from this connector from T000, it should fetch the data, and we can also truncate it further on the fields. Like for these fields we want a data, and for others we don't want that particular data. So this is how we are creating the data source. Multiple sub scenarios are available in mm, AMF to cater the various types of data inputs. So it's like various sub scenarios mean we can fetch the data from a program, from a report, from a table. We can create a custom report or program from SQL queries. So all those options are available when we are fetching the data from backend. A data source created to a particular sub scenario can be used only for the business rule of a same type of sub scenarios. Ad hoc issue query can be run on the basis of the input provided to check the data in the system. So how it is when we are configuring the data source, at that time we can run the ad hoc query to make sure uh, it is working, it is fetching the correct data from the backend which we want. Post creation, it need to be activated in order for it to be available for the business rule. Until and unless a data source is active, we cannot create a business rule over it. So it should be active. Next is the business rule. Business rule provides a business logic for testing and monitoring. So business rule is data source fetch the data. Business rule is logic about upon it. If we are saying the testing of a client control, then we need to say it will check the client type is production. Then there is a client should not be cross client configuration should not be allowed. So this type of things we will put. So this rule is called a business rule. It is created by business rule link under the rules at work center. A business will basically provide that efficiency criteria for a particular set of data fetched by a data source. So it is like that we define the deficiencies. So we are saying this is a high deficiency, low deficiency, or a medium deficiency. So whenever the control, it may possible like control get failed, so we'll able to know this is from a high deficiency, medium deficiency, or a low deficiency. Ad hoc query run on the can be run on a business rule as well to check if it is giving us the required output or not. Then post creation, it needs to be activated so that it can be assigned to a control. So this is what we are having as our business rule. Next step is once we create the data source, then we create a business rule over that. Then we need to assign these business rule to our controls. Once business rule is created an activity, it needs to be mapped to the control to perform it performed by the business rule assignment link under rule setup work center. Business rule assignment can be either a common or a regulation type. So how it is, we can assign a business rule uh, as a common or corresponding to a regulation. Regulation means SOX, GDPR, or a standard like PCI DSS, whatever we have defined. Uh, Regulation specific business rule assignment can be made only if the regulation has been assigned to the course. Otherwise, only the common business rule assignment can be done. Once the control has been added to the business rule, then the frequency has to be maintained for it. Frequency means how frequently we need to test that particular control: monthly basis, quarterly basis, yearly basis. Until and unless we will not assign the business rule to a control, we cannot uh, trigger control testing with CCM. For that we need to do it. So once we create the data source, once we create the business rule over the data source and assign the business rule to the control, then how do we trigger the automated monitoring? It's through a background job. So how, from where we can create it? There is an automated monitoring link under the rule setup work center. An automated job can be created for a particular date or time, or can be executed immediately. This is similar to what we are doing in SM37, but we are doing it through NWBC. Post the job execution, if any deficiencies are found, then the issues are raised and routed to the control owner, who in turn perform the remediation. If we have activated, if we have done such type of configuration, then it would be happen. So this is all what we are having for from our continuous control monitoring. Thanks for joining me for this session. We'll meet again for our next topics. Thank you.